For me, more and more mature I got in business, the more I realized I needed to be intentional and have an edge over my peers. And half the time, the edge is to be intentional, prepared. While most of the people are winging it going to a new year, I want to be intentional. I want to get ahead of it. I want to put a plan together, and I want to get as much intel as I can from others who are ahead of me and maybe have years of experience on me for us to be able to take our business to the next level. So I'm glad you're joining us here tonight. This will be a short webinar. It's not going to be an hour and a half, probably about an hour, max hour and 15 minutes. And we'll go through. We got a few different things. Everybody that's on here will get this PDF in an hour. You'll have access to this to get the PDF. I'll give you how to get the PDF at the end of the presentation. But there's a few things I want to suggest you do. Look, I read a book called Anxious Generation, Tom. We read that book, if you remember, when we were at Hamptons, that this has become the enemy. If you're watching it on this right now, my suggestion, turn off everything else. If you're in your car watching this, on your phone listening to this, if you're in your office, I'd actually like to see some of you guys post a picture and tag me on Instagram to say, here's where I'm at, Pat. But I would suggest you close every single your windows, whatever else that you have. Close all the windows. Close the door. Tell your wife, babe, I need an hour, babe, or come join me. Tell your kids, hey, guys, do your homework. Daddy's not going to be available for another hour, or mommy's not going to be available for another hour. If you're in West Coast and it's 3 o'clock, you're at work, you're working while you're watching this, I get it. But if you're at somewhere else that you're watching this, I suggest you give your full attention, because we're going to reveal to you exactly what we did in 2020 when the election took place and everybody was talking about, oh my God, I can't believe what's going on. We're going to open up and share with you how much money we've made on YouTube. We're going to share with you strategies on what happened with our podcast and all the different companies that we did. What were we thinking about while we went through this phase together? And at the end, you'll get the PDF, and we'll also give you a challenge on what we're doing next. Just so you know, while we're going through this entire process, we start planning very, very early for 2025. If you're someone that has big plans in 2025 and you're very intentional, you want to have an edge over your peers, I suggest you fully stay with us for an hour so we can go through this together. Let me give you an idea of what I've done today. There's a lot of new people that we want to hire with the company. We've been doing meetings all day today. You met with a few different people that we're interviewing today. We did the podcast, of course. My advisor from Goldman Sachs flew in. I had a 2-hour meeting with him today, wondering what is going on. You know, the S&P the last 10 years did 13%. The S&P since 1930 has done 11%. What's Goldman Sachs' position on what you're thinking the S&P is going to do the next 10 years? And he broke it down for me on what they're thinking, what their chief economist, because we're making a lot of big moves right now. So having said that, let's go through today's presentation of No Matter What. And the reason why we're calling it No Matter What is to tell you, no matter who's the president, I'm winning the next 4 years. That's the mindset, okay? That's why it's called No Matter What. So let's go through it. There are 3 types of people that are watching this podcast today. The first one are the delusional. What's the delusional? You're either delusionally worried that Trump's the president, or you're delusional and you're overly optimistic that everything's going to be perfect. Both camps are delusional, okay? When Biden got elected in 2020, I had so many delusional friends that thought it was the end of the world, and they were discouraged, not coming to the office fired up. They kind of took the whole month off, took the whole year off, and they waited for 2021. They were all, oh my God, it's going to be so this and so that. That's part of the delusional camp. It's not a good camp to be a part of, whether it's both positive and you're not paranoid about some things that can go wrong, or you're overly negative, paranoid, and you don't think anything's going to go right. Then you have the indifferent. Let's see what's going to happen. Let's see what's going to take place. I don't know. I'm kind of watching this. Let's see what this guy's got to say. I mean, I watched the podcast and I got the text, or I saw some of the Facebook or Instagram video. I'll watch to see what you have to offer, Pat. I'm indifferent. No problem. We'll entertain you, and you'll get educated as well on some of the stuff that's working for us. But then you have the indifferent camp. Then you have the enlightened. This is a community that's saying, listen, I don't know why, but I'm ready to light it up. I want the next 4 years for me to be a special 4 years. I want to do what the rest maybe are not willing to do. I don't want to wing it anymore. I want to play ball. Or you're like, nah, I've never winged it, Pat. The last 10 years I've been committed. I just want to get a little bit more ideas on what you guys are doing that can help take us to the next level. Either way, it's great to have you on this hour free webinar with us. Now, outcomes of this webinar, few things. Great companies have failed during great economies. That's a fact. Struggling companies have thrived. New companies have thrived in bad economies. Great company operators, great business operators thrive no matter what the economy is. Just doesn't matter who it is. We're going to thrive. And I'll show you some data why that's true on what's going on. A few things about 2024 and what happened this year. So far, we had several strikes. You guys remember the longshoreman strike, Boeing, Hollywood, UPS, Kaiser, fraudulent crime, employment data from the U.S. government that wasn't accurate, and then they corrected it. What was it, 2 months later or 3 months later in some cases?
And they did that several times to the American people.
Yeah, and then we were like, oh, wow, so many new jobs being created. 3 months later, real small, like, well, that wasn't really fully accurate. We were 150,000 jobs off.
Multiple times.
But they didn't have to fully report it to us because it was 3 months later. Trump assassination attempts, feels like it was yesterday. It was 5 months ago. NFIB, small business owner optimism, 33 consecutive months below the 50-year average of 98 as of September of 2024. Uncertainty index increased by 11 points to 103, the highest recorded level. This is 2024. And when you think about the small business optimism, it dropped. If you look at this here, the small business optimism was doing great from 2016 to 2020, and then massive decline. Of course, some of it was COVID, but some of it was just what the economy was going through. So there was not a high level of optimism for this score that we've been measuring since 1986. We dropped below 100 for 4 consecutive years. Now, during the time, a lot of people, you watch, let's just say you watch Kramer, or you watch MSNBC, or you watch some of the business channels, right? They'll talk about, well, look what NVIDIA's doing. Look what all these guys are doing. And sometimes you'll be confused because Wall Street did good the last 4 years. But there's a big difference between Wall Street and Main Street. When we look at Wall Street, pandemic-driven inequality, right? Main Street took a hit. Millions of jobs lost. Businesses closed down. 200,000 businesses in 2021 permanently shut down. These are husband and wives. These are families that passed the business down to their kids, shutting it down permanently. They took it. We're not talking about that a lot. That was just 3 years ago, by the way. Rising consumer debt. Main Street households turned to credit card debt and loans to manage bills, leading to a record high $1 trillion in credit cards. That's just a year ago. On top of that, skyrocketing prices. You got wage stagnation, inflation surge, investor profit, renter struggle, eviction wave. This is all going on the last 4 years. Now go to Wall Street. Stock market boom. New record highs. S&P, NASDAQ, Apple, Amazon, Microsoft, all this stuff that's going on, massive corporate profit, venture capital IPO frenzy. This is 2020 and 2021. All the guys that were starting SPACs. You remember, Tom, we used to always talk about SPACs, and if I'm not mistaken, we almost did a SPAC, if you remember that.
Yeah, we had a full presentation, and the guys came out to us and sat down. It sounded very, very interesting, but I think you wisely passed on that one.
How close were we of doing a SPAC, Tom?
Probably about a week. They were compelling. They were out there. By the way, we weren't alone. How many people were out there, and maybe people watching, where the SPAC they came and presented to you, but there are very, 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 very few. I think it's less than 10% of SPACs are actually positive.
It's true, and I remember the meeting. You know when we made the decision that we're not doing it? We were in Boca, if you remember that meeting. Sapala, all the Gavari, all those guys were there. Afterwards, we're like, let's go out. You and I spent time. I'm like, Tom, I don't think we're doing a SPAC. And we made the decision collectively, and we moved on. But a lot of people did government stimulus boosts, right? Trying to make sure Wall Street was doing fine. And then aside from that, additional Main Street struggles that we had at the time, credit card. We are now at $1.166 trillion of credit card debt. The BNPL, buy now, pay later. Oh, what a great idea. Buy this and you can pay it later. The delinquency on that was insane, right? They're showing the fact that the buy now, pay later market continued to grow with over 360 million users worldwide. This figure is expected to grow to 900 million by 2027, indicating 157% increase. But if you don't pay it back, the rates on it is ridiculous. And a lot of people couldn't pay it back. So Magnificent Seven stock during this time was crushing it. The Apple, the Microsoft, the Google, the Amazon, Tesla, NVIDIA, Meta, all these guys, they dominated. 2020, Mac 7 market cap was $6.8 trillion. You know what the market cap is today? $11.9 trillion. A 75% total increase over a 4-year period. That's a lot of money. So Wall Street did fine. Wall Street didn't feel a lot of the challenges. And across the whole weighted average return of Max 7 stock across the period exceeded 200%. NVIDIA up 783. Tesla up 829. Did you see Musk's net worth? I don't know if I saw Musk. It was roughly around $350 billion. This is the richest he's ever been. We've never had a person worth $300 billion, $350 billion. And do you think Elon's got a plan with all the things he's doing the next 4 years? He's not happy about what Sam Altman did with OpenAI. He's got some big plans with Twitter, X. He's got big plans with Tesla, with SpaceX. What do you think Elon's net worth is going to be in 4 years, right? Think about how he's processing the next 4 years. Combined revenue stood at approximately $1.4 trillion. It's now $2.3 trillion in revenue. In revenue is what we're talking about. Now, November 5th, we're doing our deal, election night event at our new building. We have 2,000 people there live. I don't know what time it was, 12:30, 12 o'clock. We called it very early in Pennsylvania, Georgia, a couple other places.
And North Carolina, we called them early. We had the math in front of us. We didn't take risks. We weren't foolish. The math said, and we called.
Special night that we had that night. I'll give you some data you won't believe. But what happened? Trump won. Some thought it was going to be Kamala. Some thought it was going to be Trump. Trump ends up winning. What happened since then? And today's what? Today's the 19th. Election night was what? November? Exactly 2 weeks, because it's Tuesday. 2 weeks ago today, you're getting ready to find out who's going to be the president. 2 weeks has already gone by. What has happened last 2 weeks? Here's some of the things that's happened. Trump's president-elect, stock market is record high, migrant caravan at border dissolved, Hamas calls for end to war, Bitcoin hits record high, Putin ready to end Ukraine war, Qatar kicks out Hamas leaders, EU will buy gas, not Russian gas, although there's a war possibly going on today with Ukraine with the missiles that we heard with Biden. This just happened last 2 days. Then you have Russia. Putin says they'll sell oil in U.S. dollars. Zelensky phones Trump and Elon. New York City mayor ends vouchers for illegals. Mexico to stop migrants at U.S. border. China wants to work peacefully with us. Big U.S. companies to move out of China. And all of that leads to future looking bright. However, be fearful when others are greedy, and greedy when others are fearful. All of us have heard this quote by Warren Buffett before. So today, there's a bit of an element of greedy. Oh my God, everything's going to be fantastic. Everything's going to be great. I don't have to do anything. The next 4 years is going to be incredible, right? Incredible. Sometimes, believe it or not, when it's the other way around, we're more prepared. We're more intentional. When you're fearing like what could happen. Sometimes when everything is good, you're a little bit casual. I've heard fear sharpens listening. And right now, not a lot of people are afraid. They're a little bit too calm, which means it's not good if you're too casual, but it's great for some of you that are the complete opposite of what everybody else is going through. Now, Tom, do you remember when 4 years ago, I don't know what, it could have been December of 2019 or could have been December of 2020, when I came back from a trip, Cancun, you and I went and met at that breakfast spot, if you remember, right?
January 11, 2021.
January 11, 2021. We left that day. Then we went and had dinner together at Ocean Air in Dallas. If you remember that dinner, me, Jen, you, and Kim, right? Then we went and did a strategy session together, you and I. And we sat there and I said, Tom, at this point, Biden's president. A lot of people are worried. They don't know what's going to happen, but we have a plan. And here's what we want to do. We wrote it out and we went and executed it. At this time, just so you guys know, we had come from a year and a half prior to that of trying to sell our business, and we did not succeed. And the buyers came in. It was probably a year prior to that. Buyers came in and looked at the company, and they said, well, we're not interested in this company without you. I said, what do you mean? He says, well, we talked to all your employees, and we realized they told us you're here every day. We're not interested in buying a company if you're here every day, especially if you don't come with it. I'm like, whoa, that is not good because we don't have real business that can exist without me. We got to do something about this. Tom comes in. We put a few things in place, okay? We saw people worry and panic. Shadow bans on the market. Everybody was talking about YouTube is shadow banning. YouTube is giving strikes. YouTube is closing the channel. YouTube is doing this. Everybody was in this frenzy about the fact that their YouTube's being taken down, and they were all worried. Decided to improve content. We made adjustments. We moved to Florida. We sold PHP when rates were low. You remember when we sold it? We sold it
June 27, 2022.
Where were we when we sold it?
We were at Monaco. We thought we'd be selling it on the 20th, the week before.
That's right.
But it took a week longer, and we had already had the prearranged trip where you were recognizing all of your top guys, your amazing multi-office owners, great entrepreneurs in their own right from PHP, and you had paid for this massive trip and brought all of them to Monaco, and we had to close the deal in Monaco.
By the way, Tom went a week. How much sleep did you have that week?
46 out of, I was awake 46 out of 48 hours for the closing window.
Awake 46 out of 48 hours.
9 time zones away from a lot of people in the United States.
The night when we had to go collect all those 54, whatever the number was, we're calling people in Puerto Rico, waking them up at 3 o'clock in the morning. Wake up, Humberto. We need a signature. What are you talking about?
All of our shareholders and spousal consents, all of that.
But it was part of the plan that we had during this period. And when Tom and I had that meeting in 2021, I said, Tom, we need to hire 5 new C-suite executives. That's exactly what we ended up doing. Then I sat down with my family when I saw in 2020 what was going on. We decided to move out of Florida. That's my son right there. If you look at the bottom right picture, it's my son. When COVID happened and they did the non-essential, the essential, remember that whole thing that they were doing? All the kids were going to work and like, man, I don't know where to go. Parents don't know where to put their kids. My kids were at the office every day. We chose to move our family to Florida. And we had 3 kids at the time. We ended up having the 4th because my wife and I have been married for 15 years. We have 4 kids born in 3 states. Each time we moved, my wife was pregnant 5 or 6 months. So our 4th baby, Brooklyn, was born while we moved to Florida. My kids were required every day at the office to make 52 shots a day of basketball, read an hour of a book that I would choose for them, and 1 hour of, documentary they would watch. And a couple of the schools my kids were going to, I was not too happy about it. I changed schools. And kids were at the office constantly while this was going on. By the way, why am I sharing this with you? Because sometimes when we do business planning, all we're thinking about is for ourselves and our business. We don't think about there's planning for our kids. There's planning for our marriage. There's planning for our wife. Tom's daughter just got accepted to go to a school that she's been meaning to go to for a long time. And out of 1,600 on her SATs, we were somewhere in the world, I don't know where we were, when we got the report of what she got on her SATs, and we celebrated together. You got 1,560 out of 1,600 because her dream is to one day be assistant manager of a Major League Baseball team. She loves baseball. And so she had to go to a school, and Tom would always tell me, this is what she wants to do. This is what she wants to do. And they would sit there and plan the best schools they can go to. That's about statistics and data. One of the best schools is XYZ school. And his daughter went to that school because they're so intentional about their planning. That's family. This is me. Look at the suit I'm wearing, by the way. You like my business shoes? You like my business socks? Look at my tie and my jacket. This is COVID season, baby. Everybody was on Zooms, and as long as you had a suit and a tie on above you, you didn't know what person was wearing below it, right? So strategy meeting with Tom, we do that. We build a bench. We hire 5 C-suite executives within a span of how long, Tom, when this took place?
It was 90 days. We did like 60 days of recruitment, 90 days of hiring, and we had a full bench behind you.
We had a full bench behind it. And then was at the office every day, 7 days a week. COVID, people were worried. 2021 became the greatest year we ever had in our life. We sold the business in June of 2022 when money was cheap. And then from there, this was the evolution. This was our company in Dallas, headquarters. And then we moved to Boca. Then we bought the other building, which I'm in right now. Then we bought another building that became a comedy club, a cigar lounge. And we have 2 bars in there. We're about to open up a private cigar lounge in that place at 5990 Live. We're excited about that. And then we just recently bought this property, 1200 Cypress Creek. If you see that, it's one of the last properties you can buy on an airport with 2 hangars where you own the land. It's not a land lease, with $7 million of brand spanking new upgrades to that place, which God knows how many events we've already done. But what we're going to be doing with this place is very, very exciting. But this was all part of the plan. Again, why am I sharing this with you? You got to be thinking about this and saying, what are my next 5, 10, 15 moves? I'm giving you ours, and I'll tell you exactly what we did here in a minute. Now, during 2020, I wanted to start a podcast. I was doing valuetainment and content around business and some interviews, but I said, I want to start a podcast to talk about current events, sports, politics, business, economy, anything. Pat, you should never talk about politics. I get it. Even some of my competitors said, everything with Valuetainment is going to collapse because the moment you go politics, you're going to lose an audience. I said, nah, that's not how it works. Here's what I've learned from hanging out with people and I have dinner with. They want to talk about sports. They want to talk family. They want to talk politics. They want to talk money. They want to talk this kind of stuff. They want to debate. I said, why can't we create a platform that we can have these types of conversations? So we did. Nobody knew about us. We had our first live. We had 57 people on with us. So October 7, I want to give you some numbers here for you to pay attention because this was part of a strategy. We had just started this podcast a few months before election. So think about it. Election night, we started this a few months before that. From starting the channel, I want to see what the numbers are. Check this out. So we started the channel July 8th, 2020. And then through July 8th to November 5th, the YouTube channel made $2,800. We're becoming rich in a big way. She's laughing. Tom's laughing right now. But the numbers I'm giving you at the time, November 5th, we had 28,300 subscribers. By the way, for the last 28 days, election November 5th, 28 days, the channel during that 28 days total got 488,000 views. The night ends with election night. I told Tom and I told Adam, I said, 2024 is going to be our year. You'll see. Concurrent viewers that night, we had 6,700 people that were with us at the peak. Now let's go to what happened here now. October 7th, 2024 to November 5th, 2024. That's the same pattern of 28 days. The last time, 4 years ago, we got 488,000 views. This time we got 23.5 million views. That's just this channel. Subs, we had 28.3 thousand subs. This alone is now 2.3 million subs. AdSense, we had made $2,800. This time around, we made $2.5 million. Not sponsorship, just YouTube AdSense. This was part of the strategy. PBD Podcast went from just being one of 5 million podcasts to being a number one podcast on Apple and on Spotify and competing with some of the other guys that are out there. Okay, so this is now PBD Podcast. Meanwhile, that's what our live was on the left. That's me, that's Adam, that's Tom, that's Jera, that's Matt Sapala, that's Tom Zenner. We're sitting there, and you'll see in the back, Joker's there. I got an Armenian and an Assyrian flag. I mean, that's pretty wild. We don't even have a U.S. flag. Maybe the U.S. flag was on the right that you couldn't see. That's 4 years ago. Look at the right. On the right, our podcast, YouTube just sent out an update that Hollywood Reporter, Vanity Fair, and a bunch of people wrote about. We were the number one live stream worldwide that night. Our peak, we hit 283,000 concurrent viewers is what happened that night. We put $1 million into that event that you see on the right. We had people coming from all over the world. We had guys that bought $12,000 tickets coming from Australia. I said, why do you care about the U.S. election? He says, all I wanted to do is I wanted to be here because I've been watching this podcast for the last 4 years. I had to be here today. I said, but you're in Australia. Do you remember this guy that came from Australia?
Completely.
NBA players were there. MLB players were there. People that bought their own tickets showed up. It was the most incredible event that we had just 2 weeks ago. Now, let's talk Valuetainment. Valuetainment was another channel that we had at the time that I wanted to grow Valuetainment in ways we hadn't grown before. These are some numbers for us. During the same 4-week period, October 7th to November 5th, Valuetainment at the time did 9.9 million views. We had a total of 2.6 million subs at the time. And AdSense from the beginning of Valuetainment, 2012, till November 5th, 2020, total, we had made $1.2 million. Now, go to Valuetainment the last 4 weeks, October 7th to November 5th, same exact pattern. We're comparing it. It did 126.4 million views, 6.2 million subs, AdSense, $6.4 million. That means the last 4 years, just AdSense, we made $5.2 million just from this right here. By the way, here's an interesting stat for you. From 2012 to 2023, we got 1 billion views. Year to date in 2024, we have 1 billion views already this year. Think about that. This whole thing was intentional. That we sat there and we used the business planning method that we use with the 12 building blocks. We sat there and we put it together. Here's how we're going to get this done. 4 years later, those are the results. Now, merch. Everyone's like, how, you guys, I see all this future looks bright merch. 4 years ago, when it comes down to merch, you know how much merch we sold? Barely anybody bought our merch. My own family wouldn't buy the merch. We sold 1,200 units of our merch 4 years ago. You know what else we didn't have 4 years ago? We didn't even have Future Looks Bright 4 years ago. It was I'm an entrepreneur. Future Looks Bright just started 2 years ago, 1.5 years ago, if you think about it. This year alone, not counting the last 2 months, we've sold 72,000 units, 60x in merch. Merch alone, in our eyes, will end up being a unicorn probably in the next 3 to 5 years. We'll be selling 1 million pieces of merch here very soon because we have a specific plan and investment that we made into our merch with the plan of wanting 1 million people worldwide sporting Future Looks Bright. By the way, if some of you guys are watching right now saying, oh my God, you know, he's doing his selling and all this stuff. No, this was a plan. And we shared it with the world. And the right people bought. Same thing you need to be doing as well. What is your plan? Do you have it? 2020, it's going to be like this. We're going to wake up. It's 2028. I'm 46 years old right now. Just yesterday, I got out of the Army. If you told me when I got out of the Army, June of 1999, that I'm going to be 46 years old like this, I'd say you're full of it. 26 years has gone like this. I am 46, okay? It's a shocking, the fact that the next 4 years is going to go just as quick. So you can sit around and be like, well, I got to watch the game. I got to do this. But those of you that are tuning and saying, are you freaking kidding me? This is what they did last 4 years. And by the way, think about what our plans are the next 4 years. We're not going to unveil it today, but we'll share it with some of the folks on a different thing that's coming up here soon. Let me continue. Tom, can you share with them what our conversation started with on why we decided to build VTnews.ai? How did this happen?
Well, it started with during an election year, we're looking around and we're wondering, you know, wouldn't it be great if you could figure out like what direction the news is coming at you?
Yep.
You go to MSNBC in the morning and you see, you know, Bip and Bop. We know who they are. I'm not even going to say their names, but we know what direction they're coming from. Every year they're throwing it from that side. We said, boy, wouldn't it be great if you could understand the news and see stories that were interesting to you, like I want to read about that, and understand what direction it came from, and be able to maybe select the moderate or the right and see the perspectives that were being thrown around.
Right.
We said, wait a minute, what if we got a bunch of AI engineers? What if we build that algorithm? What if we did that? What if we pulled all the news stories together, and rather than just giving people yet another aggregation source, we give them aggregation with a viewpoint and an understanding of where it's coming at them? And what if we let them select their favorite topics for a subscription? And what if we let them now see their own favorite homepage with all of the things that matter to them? And what if we put an incredibly powerful AI engine? I remember you saying to me, Tom, could we have an AI engine that you could ask questions about the news and pull on the news from the news? And I said, Pat, I think we could do that. I think it's a great idea. And so how many engineers we have working on this? We put it together and it became VTnews.ai. Where you go, you can subscribe. You have this powerful AI engine to search through the news and you can see exactly what direction it's coming from.
But this was never planned 4 years ago. The
vision
it didn't
was
exist
clear. 4 years
this
ago.
Did not exist 4 years ago. We wanted this for our podcast. We built it to share it with the world, but we use this product all the time ourselves. Our crew uses this all the time. Again, but knowing the fact that we wanted to compete in a marketplace as a podcast, we said we got to put this together as well. Another one of those ideas that just came about because the vision was clear. Let me continue.
Frustration was the mother of invention.
That's right. Minnect did not exist in 2020. So when you hear us talk about, hey, Minnect me, what's Minnect? Well, 7 years ago, 8 years ago, I'm talking to this lawyer, and I have a 7-minute call with him. He bills me for 15 minutes or whatever that he billed me for. I call him. I said, why are you billing me for this much? We only had a 7-minute call. I have the proof on my phone here. He says, Pat, I'm a lawyer. I said, it doesn't roll up this much. I said, what do you charge by the minute? He says, we don't charge by the minute. It's by minutes roll up. I said, I want to be able to pay you by the minute. He says, nothing like that exists. I said, what if an app like that existed where we can pay people by the minute, no matter what their background is? I come to you, we had a conversation. At the time, we're going through building PHP and Bamboo. We're like, we don't have the time to build it right now. 3 years later, we introduce Minnect, where you can literally ask me a question. I can respond back in audio, video. We can have a 15-minute call together. Here's what happened to it. 2021, there was only 28 completed Minnects. That people paid for it and somebody responded. 2022, 551, 2023, 2593, 2024. Year to date, this is as of November 1st, 36,968 questions have been asked here. Why is this doing it this way? Because 4 years ago, we had a plan. And so the response rate is higher. People get to ask questions. I'm paying you. You have to answer me because I'm paying you, respecting your time. We're on LinkedIn. I'm sending all these messages. Nobody does. Again, this was part of the plan on Minnect. You can literally right now ask me or Tom any question. We will respond back to you in audio. That's the app that did not exist 5 years ago. It wasn't even something that we were actively driving in 2020. And right now, it's growing exponentially for us. Let me continue. Bay David Consulting didn't even exist 4 years ago. There was no Bay David Consulting in 2020. Now we got 55 full-time employees within Bay David Consulting that we sit down with clients and we do engagements, 10,000 clients nearly from 60-plus countries that we do engagements with. And we have our flywheel, what we do for them. Vol Conference 2020. 2019, we did our first. 420 people showed up. 2020, COVID happened. We had to cancel it. It was virtual. 2021, 780 people showed up. 2022, 1,200. 2023, 24. This year, 5,000 plus people in attendance at Palm Beach Convention Center. It was the most intense place for 4 days. We spent time together, but this was part of the plan 4 years ago. This is not including recordings and all this other stuff. And Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson was with us at this event. Last year, Tom Brady was with us. Vol Conference, this is 2019, okay? 400 people, that's in Dallas. This is Zoom. Nobody was there with us because it was COVID. It was shut down. 2021, that's us in Diplomat. 2022, 2023, and then this is 2024. If you were in there, you know how that event was like. It was something else. Let me continue. Books, again, first was Your Next 5 Moves. Then it was Choose Your Enemies Wisely. Then it was the fiction book. Every one of these came out intentionally timed because of the plan, okay? Let me go to the next one. When you look at this flywheel is all the businesses that feed each other. We didn't have this 4 years ago. 4 years ago, I'm building an insurance company. I'm not even thinking about this 4 years ago. But after election night and Biden winning, I sat there and I said, we got to put a big plan together. And the rest is history. Everything gradually came about together. We knew where we wanted to be in 2024. We went and said, we got to bring this person, we got to invest into this, we got to move over here, we got to do all this stuff. And throughout the process, new ideas came about as well. And obviously, the business crew, today I'm sitting with my guy from Goldman Sachs. I said, what do you think this whole line holding company is worth right now? And he gave me a number. I'm like, very interesting. If I told you what's going on over here behind closed doors, most people wouldn't believe it. But we knew we wanted to build this 4 years ago. This whole thing I'm sharing with you is what you're going to be doing between now and the next 4 years. It's got nothing to do with what we're doing. Now, few things that is important. 4 years ago, we're sitting there, and I made a list. When we do our business plan, there's a certain 12 building blocks I follow with our business plan that we do. One of the key things that we write down is, who do we want to build alliances with? And we wrote down a list of names, okay? 4 years ago, I had never met Dana White. That relationship was built. 4 years ago, I had never met Dwayne Johnson. That relationship had been built. 4 years ago, President Trump and I had never done anything. President Trump came and he sat in this chair right here when we did the interview a month ago, whatever the timeline was, with 40 Secret Service people here, 2 helicopters, ambulance, fire trucks. My own wife and my kids couldn't come. And they said, hey, we know who you are, but President's in here. You got to wait a few minutes. Please park across the street. But 4 years ago, it was on the list of people that we want to build alliances with. One of the most important things that has to be in your business plan was alliances. When I met Tom the first time, in 2007, 2008, we've known each other now nearly 20 years. My pastor said, I got to introduce you to the smartest guy in the church. I meet him. Another guy in the church says, you know how much that guy gave to the church? We were at this one thing that they were raising the top 25 donors, whatever it was. He says, that guy standing over there gave $660 last year to the church. I said, what's the big deal about giving $660 to the church? He said, add 3 zeros to it. I said, he gave $660,000 last year? That's that guy. He never told me this. Another guy that was there told me this. I'm like, wow, that's that guy? Yes. We had lunch, walked away. Then our wives, who were part of the same Bible study together at the time, says, we got to introduce the husbands. We don't know who they're talking about. We meet again. I said, wow, very interesting. Tom and I become very close friends. We travel. I don't know how many places do we travel to together.
I think we've added up that there was like 52 places in 4 years and countless. And, you know, early stage, we were sharing the hotel and it was just amazing. But conversations till like midnight, 1 a.m. all the time.
Big thinking. By the way, let me tell you how weird Tom is, just so you guys know this, to tell you how special of a guy this is. We're in Arizona. We're at this Inc. 5000 conference. We had an incredible time. We're playing poker. It's where we meet Mayor Masso. Why we ended up moving to Texas, one of the reasons was because he was recruiting us to Frisco. But that night, everything is over. We go to the bar to sit down. I don't know what bar we went to. I see Tom over there, and I see a girl approaching me at the bar. I'm like, why is this girl got a smirk on her face and walking up to me at 1 o'clock in the morning? She walks up to me, very attractive. We start talking. She says, is that your friend? I said, yeah. She says, is there any reason why your friend and my husband are hugging each other and crying? I said, what the hell is going on over here? That's your husband? Yeah. By the way, tall, good-looking, athlete type of guy. I said, listen, I don't have a clue what's going on over there. And then we see both of them walk into us with their arms next to each other. Literally, I'm telling you this. What time? The 1 o'clock in the morning, I'm assuming this is. And then they come. They're still crying. They don't even see us as if we don't exist. I said, hey, guys, is you guys good? He says, yeah, very good. I said, what just happened right now? He says, Tom just shared his testimony with me, and he shared the gospel with me, and I just gave my life to Christ. I said, at 1 o'clock in the morning at a bar? Yeah, but if you only knew my story. This guy was a former Major League Baseball player. That is Tom, by the way. But the point is, when I met Tom and all these traveling that we did, Tom didn't know this. I knew this. And it happened 3 years before even this took place. I said, I got to recruit Tom to come and be one of my executives in the company. I knew that. He didn't know that. One, I couldn't afford him 3 years prior to that because it was 2011. But I knew I could eventually afford him. And when we sat down, the interview was done in a H1 yellow Hummer.
Outside of a small sushi place in Granada Hills, California.
Like, should I share with them how this whole thing came about? So we're sitting there talking, and I'm like, Tom, and I don't know if I can afford you. What is the salary? Tom gives me the number. I'm like, dude, that's the...
We're 12 feet away from each other because the Hummer is the size of an apartment.
He says, listen, but that's me. I mean, that's what I got to do if you want me to come. He had just sold one of his businesses. He was a free agent for the first time in a long time. I said, yes. And I'm like, Tom, I know you don't see how much money we can make in insurance. I said, would you be okay if I log into my Chase account so you can see how much money we made last month? You can go through some. He says, yeah, sure, go ahead and do that. I log into Chase. I hand him the phone. He sees the deposits for the last 30 days. He says, honestly, I think my salary needs to be a little bit higher. We had a funny moment together, but Tom came in. That's 2011 when I knew I wanted to recruit him, but it took me 3 years until I recruited him. He came, became the president of my insurance company, raised the first $1 million, raised the second $10 million, and then without him, we don't sell the business. He was a very important alliance I wanted to recruit. Who's on your list of people that you want to recruit? I have certain names I want to build the next 4 years. Who's yours? Number one is alliance. Number two is enable. I looked on ways on how I can enable myself and others, okay, to take the business to the next level. Very important. I did not want to have any associations that couldn't help us with this. Who can enable us? What relationship can enable us to go to the next level? I learned in life, you're one relationship away from your life changing. One great relationship in your life that believes in you and you're loyal to them, your life could change. One, that's all it takes. One relationship. Dana White, nobody want to let him, UFC, go anywhere and fight. Dana White goes and calls Trump. Trump says, come and do your fights over here. He does. Look at their relationship together. Take Trump out of that relationship. Where's UFC today? We don't know. One relationship. Think about one relationship. What did to them? That one relationship could be Dana to Connor, Dana to others. Who's that person that can enable you, that relationship, again, that you want to pursue? Number three, sequencing. Sequencing is steps to go through the process. What do I do first? Then what do I do next? I knew I wanted to have Tom come on board. I knew I wanted certain alliances that I wanted to build. By the way, 2024 election, what did Trump do? He built a relationship with Tucker that he had. Tucker goes with Elon on X. We made a $100 million offer to Tucker. He said no to us. He goes to Elon. Tucker, Elon, and Trump build an alliance. Vivek gets in there. Tulsi gets in there. RF Kennedy gets in there. Look what happened election night. These are all alliances that took place. Same way they built it, you got to do it as well. So sequencing is something, Tom, we talk a lot about.
Exactly. And making sure that there are true believers walking along with you in that sequencing. You get the sequencing right with the people that are true believers in your vision, and now you're going to get the momentum and you're going to be driving.
So for you, if you're sitting there, think about if you're playing Monopoly, the game, okay? What do you want to buy first? You know how some people play and they don't buy anything? They're just trying to go past go so they get cash? Is that the right sequencing? You know how some people, if you buy Vermont for $100. I'll come in and my dice, I'm like, hey, you bought that for $100? Will you sell it for $200? Yeah. Boom. Now I roll the dice and I land on the other one. Now I got two blues in one turn. Sequencing. This is all sequencing. Hey, I'm going to have all the, I'm going to hold this green, North Carolina because I'm going to negotiate and trade it with you for Marvin because I'm going to have all the yellow on that corner because it's $150 per house and it's more rent than the one on the Kentucky and Illinois. That's what everything is sequencing. Just like it is in a video game in Monopoly, it is for the next 4 years as well. So next, urgency, moving with urgency. We're doing this business planning no matter what webinar. What is today's date? The 19th. By the way, who the hell is talking about business planning right now? Most people are not even thinking about business planning until December 29th, 30th. And December 31st, they make some New Year resolution. Some people wake up on the first and they do it. You're on this webinar? How many people are on the webinar, right? I'm willing to bet out of everybody that signed up, probably only 20% of them are on. How come the other guys didn't get on? That they're not thinking about this. I still got a lot of time till 2025. Urgency. Most people lack the urgency of coming out. Self-aware, knowing what you're good at and what you're not good at. I'm interviewing a guy today. He asked me a very interesting question, says, what are your biggest challenges of building a company when you go through? I said, I got a left brain side and I got a right brain side. I love math, but I'm also creative. But I'm self-aware of what areas I do well and what areas I need to rely on my executive team to get it done. For you, self-aware of yourself, is it procrastination? Is it distraction? Is it the fact that you get stuck on the phone going through stories and you're stuck for 45 minutes to an hour? Is it laziness? Is it sleeping in? Is it smoking weed? Is it doing too much drugs? Is it you drink a lot? Is it you got a gambling habit nobody knows about? Is it you're too sensitive? If somebody rejects you once, you're like, oh my God, that's not fair. Is that what it is? What is, you know it though. I know me. And I've known me over the years, and I've had to address it every single time. Even me right now for the next 4 years, I'm self-aware of what I need the next 4 years. You ought to be as well. That's a big part of it as you're going through it. Tom taught me one of the biggest lessons in life. I couldn't believe when he taught me this. He was 52. He told me, Pat, it took me 52 years to realize I make more money where I'm the number 2 in a company than number 1. I said, what? Who says something like that? He says, I'm a better entrepreneur. If there's a vision that I'm going, I'm going to be able to execute that and be a better COO, helping that company, than the CEO will be. Think about being aware of that and then coming in. Every business we build, Tom's been a part of it. It doesn't happen without Tom. That's because he's self-aware. Next, ultra proactive. Don't wait another day or a week or whatever. I'm making a decision today. I'm taking action today. They're waiting. I'm doing it right now. I got to go figure this thing out. Go today and do it. Don't wait till tomorrow. I used to always tell my guys, the now mentality, not the tomorrow mentality. Use the word tomorrow less times moving forward. Babe, we'll do it tomorrow. Guys, let's follow up tomorrow. No, replace tomorrow. If you use tomorrow, the word, 1,000 times this year, next year, minimize it to 500. If you use tomorrow, be selective. Use now. I'm not waiting. Let's address it now. Can we figure it out now? We just hired a new CTO that's with us. One other thing I love about this guy, you know who I'm talking about. Tom, how is you when something that needs to happen and somebody says, well, we can get this done by Monday. We can get it done by tomorrow. What does he do?
When it's really, really urgent, he is as steady as when he's just sitting there planning with a blank sheet of paper. And he drives the people effectively, and it gets done.
Yeah, and it's now, we'll do it right now. It's not a big deal. We'll take the next 2 hours and get it done now. Guys, we got it. Give us a couple hours. We'll get back to you. The now mentality, right? If you got big plans in 2025, where you want to be in 2028, that's the now mentality. New way of thinking. So here's the key when I said new way of thinking. So, my advisor and I are sitting down together. And I told him, I said, look, here's the vision of what we're building. I showed him the entire flywheel. I said, the vision is for us to hit this number by this time. I said, my goal and how you can help me is instead of doing this in 20 years, is by doing it in 10 years. And instead of doing the goal that we have for 5 years, to do it in 5 years. And the goal that we have in 5 years, I'd like to do it in 2.5 years. I said, if you are able to help me accelerate this process, guess what? You make more money because that money is going to be managed by somebody. What happens to yours? He says, no, I totally get it. I said, whatever else you're doing, another thing I want you to consider is who does Pat need to meet next? It could be an investor. It could be a talent. It could be a technology expert. It could be somebody that was a big CEO 20 years ago that's been retired, that's worth $8 billion, but would be a good advisor and mentor to me. I said, help me find those guys and build those relationships. Like, I never thought about it that way. Goes away, executes. Every single time we went to New York, built some relationships because of what he did. New way of thinking. Your way of thinking, if you look wherever you are right now with your job, whether you're a content creator, your podcast, whether it's YouTube, whether it's your weight, whether it's your marriage, whether it's your kids, whether it's your confidence, whether it's your business, whether it's your income, whether it's your savings, whether it's whatever you got, you are where you are today because of the way you think today. What new way of thinking do you need? Then the question becomes, how do you get that new way of thinking? One of the ways that worked for me to get a new way of thinking is by being part of different strategy sessions and masterminds. Tom, many years ago, introduced me to this thing called Vistage. We used to sit in Vistage, and it was 4 things everybody had to say. Do you remember that? What was it? One is your personal life, one is your health, one is business, and what was the other one? There was one other one.
It was like...
crisis if you're going through something.
Correct. And how do I?
And how do I, yeah. And I'll never forget, people would go up, and it was very private, people would go up and say, health, I'm a 7 right now. Personal life, I'm a 1. Our marriage is in shambles. Business is a 9. And my how do I is, how do I fix my marriage? I was like, whoa, man, that's pretty wild. That you remember these steps. Remember some of the ones that was very, and of course, everybody's keeping it to each other, but it was a new way of thinking. I saw one guy right there says, hey, if I don't get $500,000 in the next 2 weeks, I'm going to have to shut down the business. The head guy, John, goes out there, makes 2 phone calls, asks the guy to step out, goes, sits down with the other guy, gets him $500,000 within whatever, $500,000 term sheet, if you remember that, because the guy needed $500,000. Of course, it was expensive money, but he got it for him like this. And it was gone. I'm like, wow, deals get done this quickly? I'm 30 years old at the time sitting in this room. I'm like, wow, my way of thinking is like, man, all this stuff takes, nope, boom, boom, boom. And that was by being part of different strategy sessions and masterminds. If you're not part of a mastermind to see how other people process issues, do whatever you can to find one that fits you to help you think in a new way, especially since you have new goals. Next, wartime and peacetime. Tom, if you were to break down the different way to approach a wartime, which was 4 years ago, versus a different way to approach peacetime, which right now some people may think the next 4 years are going to be peacetime. What is the different approach to take with wartime and peacetime?
Well, wartime, don't panic, because there's a lot of things you do well, and there's a lot of things you've done well since the beginning. You need to focus on the strengths you have, and you need to be very, very attuned to the weaknesses you have and be very objective, and don't be cocky. You can't be cocky and you have to be confident. You have to be paranoid. Andy Grove wrote a book called Only the Paranoid Survive, and I would argue that it's almost more important to be paranoid in peacetime, because that's when you can become flabby and weak and complacent and your team and fall over. But during wartime, focus on your strength. Do a great SWOT analysis, objectively going through it, and I think you should prepare every day as if it's wartime. But when wartime's got the greatest uncertainty, that's when you'll find out the people that are truly with you on your team, where you've got gaps in people that you need to change. That's the way I approach it.
I love it. And I agree with it. By the way, again, remember, at the end, everyone's going to get the PDF here. Stick around to find out how to get it. Next, pivot and adjustments, okay? There's a lot of pivots and adjustments we have to make. There's a lot of things that is not going to go your way. There are some things that are not going to go your way in your personal life. I had a conversation with my 2 kids the other day. We're walking the dogs late at night. That's when we sit down and have a conversation. For whatever reason, both of my boys like to walk around in their briefs and just flip-flops. And my oldest son is a big fan of Crocs and flip-flops. And you want to know this, I don't like Crocs. And everyone in my house loves Crocs. I don't understand Crocs. Mentally, I haven't yet bought into the Crocs concept. But I digress. Let me come back here.
You need a Croc tariff.
We need a Croc tariff, right? So we're walking, and we're talking about dreams. And after they're dreaming, they're getting excited. I said, okay, you guys are excited about your dreams? Yes. I said, let me give you some part of it. I said, so what are you going to do if your girl breaks up with you and goes with another guy? What are you going to do if you go through possible injury? Something happens in our family. Someone's no longer with us. You know, there's a setback in school. There's a setback with sports. There's some kind of a setback. Something doesn't go your way. Coach doesn't pick you for certain tournaments somebody else starts. How are you going to handle that? How are you going to handle those things? How will you adjust and pivot accordingly with that? My son right now went to a tournament with him in Orlando, and I saw this one team compete. I could not believe how great they were. And I sat there and talked to one of the parents whose son was number 10. For 2 hours, I'm talking to this parent. We got back in the car. We had a 3.5-hour drive back from Sarasota. And I said, I said, do you want to play professional? Yeah. I said, this strategy is not going to work. We made massive adjustments and pivots. The strategy of helping my son, the business plan for him on his dreams becoming a reality, we made a massive pivot and adjustment because that strategy simply wasn't going to work. And I talked to him about it. He bought into it. I went and recruited the 3 people that I needed. We started working on it. His game's changed. He's a number 2 leading scorer on the team. And he had his first hat trick with this A team that he's competing with. We've never had him do that. And his left is so strong. He scored a corner that was being kicked while the ball is in the air, kicks it with the left, beautiful, goes in, confidence up, because the strategy changed. I was like, we're not going to get there just practice, and we have to train better. In business, you're going to also have to make some pivots and adjustments, not get discouraged, because something's going to happen. You're going to get discouraged during this time. Anticipate. What can you anticipate? We sit there and anticipate what's going to happen the next few years. What's going to happen the next 4 years? What are some things that could happen with Trump? You think everyone's going to just sit there and allow him to do everything he wants to do? No. You think everyone that's getting a job right now is going to stay that way? What do you think is going to happen? You know what Goldman Sachs is saying the S&P 500 is going to do the next 10 years? They said the last 10 years it did 13%. Since 1930, it did 11%. But they're estimating the next 10 years probably going to do 3 to 6%. I said, 3 to 6%? He said, yes. I said, why 3 to 6%? He said, they're worried that money's not going to be cheap. The moment Trump won, interest rates went up a little bit because they were worried something's going to happen with inflation. So you're not just sitting there like, okay, if money gets more expensive, what do we do? Sitting there today, I went through the interest rates on everything, all the properties we bought, some cash, some financing. What's the interest on this? What's the interest on that? That's the meeting I had 6 hours ago. Everything is anticipate to see what direction the market's going to go so you're ready for it. Hiring, family, marriage, wedding, all of that is I'm about to have a kid. I'm having my first kid. I know a lot of people around me right now, they're expecting their first kid. Some of them just had it. What's going to happen to me financially? What do I have to get ready for? What am I going to teach? Am I going to be ready for it? What is it going to look like? Anticipation. Then it's the risk. What level of risk are you willing to take? Just 6 weeks ago, a property we're looking at, we sat there during auction. They said, what's the LLC called? 1200 LLC. Can you please show us your camera? Tom's sitting right there. Says, yes, I'm Tom Ellsworth. You remember this?
Yeah, because you know what? You don't want your identity known if you're doing these auctions, and that's the way to do it.
And we sat there and we made the risk of buying a property on the airport, $25.2 million cash. Boom, right there. You have to show the money within a week and a half. We said, we're good. We're taking this. You're going to have to take some risks. You're going to have to put some resources. Maybe sometimes you're going to hire more. Maybe sometimes you're going to take some risks where you're going to like, whoa, I want to take this new promotion within the company. Man, I'm a little worried. Can I really do it or not? I want to go out there and do X, Y, Z. What if this happens? What if that happens? Some of it could be investment. Some of it could be money. Some of it could be different things. But the risk is going to be involved. Next one, malleable. Learning how to adjust. Learning how to, learn from your mistakes you made in the past because you're going to make some of those mistakes. Next one, eliminating distractions and dead weight. Every year, this is going to sound weird, I make a list of certain people in my life, friends, family, coworkers. This person is not going to make it to 2025. Why? They're typically negative, condescending, small thinking, difficult to be around. They're selfish. It's about all themselves, and they suck the energy out of the room. We hired Ritz-Carlton, 2 months ago, to come and teach our guys how to have better customer service with our employees and better engagement with our employees and identify who to invest money into and who not to. What did they say? There's 3 different types of people in every company. Remember that? 1 was a superstar. 2 was what? Just there. And 3 was caves. Constantly against virtually everything. And they said 17% of the company is cave. At Ritz, our goal is to eliminate the caves that we have. Ritz, who taught Apple about customer service, they get rid of 17% of their employees every year that are caves? Yep. Why? Because it's dead weight and distractions. You got to get rid of them. You got to move on. Maybe they're going to be happy at a different company, but not with you. So every year you got to eliminate some distractions. By the way, if you're part of a very competitive badminton league, okay, that takes 22 hours of your week. I highly doubt many of you play badminton, but some of us in Europe played badminton. In America, most people don't even know what badminton is. It could be fantasy football. It could be video games. It could be you're stuck watching these. When people tell me, you should watch the entire 13th season of XYZ show. 13 seasons?
Go binge on that.
How many episodes each season? Oh, it's only 11. I said, you realize 13 times 11 is what? Is it 141 or something, 144? You want me to watch a 145-hour movie? I'm not doing that. I have a hard time watching a 2-hour movie. You want me to watch a 145-hour movie? I can't do 140. what if you fully got focused the next 4 years? 2003, I said, I'm no longer listening to the radio. It doesn't matter. Today in 03, it did. Last time I listened to the radio was 03. Moving forward, everything in my car was personal development audiobooks. I limited all my distractions. I didn't want to listen to Hit 'em Up anymore. It was completely different. I didn't want to listen to certain music, Bone Thugs and Harmony or whatever. I didn't want to listen to it. I'm like, nope, I'm done. It's all I'm going to shape this because I need a new way of thinking. I want a new way of thinking. I want to be a better leader. I want to be able to step up and have certain things become a reality in my life. I need to think in a new way, especially if you grew up in a poor family, 1.8 GPA, dad's a cashier at a 99-cent store, mother runs out of money, goes back to Iran. We are low level of thinking. I've never lived in a house before. We've never known what it is to live in an apartment complex with a swimming pool. The only swimming pool we could go to was Glendale High School swimming pool that we would have to jump the gate, sneak in, and then when the cop chases us, we jump the gate again, leave. It's the only pool we had. We didn't have a swimming pool. None of my friends lived in an apartment complex with a pool. You think if I just think with my identity, I'm going to be a leader? No, I had to eliminate distractions. It's not easy to do, but you got to do it. And then the last one that I'll put here, which is probably the most important one, is learning how to write the proper business plan. I used to write business plans until I learned I need to write a business plan and a life plan. We put certain things together. I wrote a book specifically about business planning, okay? And once a year, I decided to host an event called a business planning workshop. Why? Because since 21 years old, I've been doing business plan. It used to be just a page. Then I would sit there and do business plans for 50 other people every year. Then it became 100 people. Then it became 500 people. Every year, I would be doing business plans with folks. And then my business plans got more clear. And I'll never forget one time. I'll never forget this. One time I wrote a business plan. You ever wrote a business plan where you couldn't read it enough times? The more you would read it, you would get excited. You know what I'm talking about, right?
I know exactly what you're talking about.
I wrote this business plan, and I laminated it front and back. It's like an 8-page business plan. And I just couldn't stop reading it. It was with me everywhere. I had my planner pad, and it was always in there with me. And I had it everywhere. In the shower, laminated front and back. I'd be in the shower, and I'm looking at this. Like, oh, my God, here's what we're going to be doing. And that's what's going to happen. And if I do this, my dad's going to do. It was so exciting. Until you experience writing a business plan proper way, you won't know that feeling. So my suggestion to you, while everybody else, if you're still here with us, most people are not thinking business plans. They're going to go into a new year business as usual. No new habits, no new way of thinking, no new urgency, no investments in it. It's always, it's the government's fault. It's my company's fault. It's my boss's fault. The clients are idiots. It's my employees. They're not thinking right. It's my sales guys. These guys are this. Blaming everybody except the guy here. And when you do a plan, you sit there and say, wow, I can improve in these areas. And what does it look like if I do? So, where are we going with this? A couple things. Business planning, most people don't have a method on how to write it. With me having done as many business plans as I've done, finally with Penguin, Penguin Portfolio, I sat down with them. They said, hey, Patrick, we want you to write a book on business plan. We went back and forth, wrote it. Came out last year, and once a year, like I was telling you, I host an event specifically for business planning. However, November 2028, 4 years from now, can you visualize where you'll be? How old are you right now? I'm 46. You know how old I'm going to be in November 2028? I'm going to be 50. I'm going to be 50. I already had a conversation with a guy that was here last week about watches, what I want to do on my 50th birthday party. We've had a little bit of conversation about that, right? What's some things we want to do? Where are you going to be November 2028? Where are you going to be within the company you're at right now? What level of leadership and responsibilities will you have? What will that person look like? How will that person lead? How will the person develop better relationships? How will that person handle himself or herself? Are you excited about meeting that person? Do you think if we just wing it, that person will show up? Or do you think you need to be intentional about it? Again, this is why once a year I host an event, which is a business planning workshop that happens once a year. And we do it the second week of December. And if I'm not mistaken, the date for business planning workshop is what? Is it December? If you can get the date for me. It's on the webinar here while we go through it. We do a business planning workshop once a year. That'll happen. It'll be in South Florida, but it's also Zoom, okay, that we do. And this is the only one that we do that's virtual because people around the world say, Pat, please do a virtual one. Vault is not virtual. SLS is not virtual. The only conference I ever host that's virtual is a business planning workshop. Did you guys get the dates? December 13th. We start early in the morning and we go all day, okay? And I break down on how to put down your business plan together throughout that session. It's Tom and I that go through it together. It's a full day session, 9 hours, 8 hours that we go through it. And once a month, I host a general mastermind, 90 minutes. I do, so does Tom. In the general mastermind, you will hear me involving people to ask their questions from me, and about 12 people with me, we process issues together. This mastermind is the mastermind I was telling you about, that you ought to be in some of these rooms where you're hearing people, what issues they're having and how they're overcoming it. The general mastermind, if you're not going to be with us, I highly recommend you go participate in someone's general mastermind in 2025, 2024. I believe we got the best. But I would recommend you make that part of your plan to be part of one in 2025, even in December before going into 2024, because some of them are going into 2025, because there's a lot of good stuff going on right now where people are talking about strategies. So now, business planning workshop that I host once a year, it's typically $797. Right now, on this webinar, $397. And what happens there when you're with us, you get a 100-page digital workbook, 4-week access to the recording if you want to share with your family and others to watch, and ability to submit questions in advance. The first 100 people that register for the business planning workshop at a $397 price point, the first 100 will also get a 1-month general mastermind with me in December that I'm hosting it. You'll be invited to be a part of it. Just so you know, people pay $6,000 a year to be part of this general mastermind. If you register for business planning workshop, you get 1 month for free to watch how it's done, so you can sit there and say, I need to be part of something like this. So now, first 100 to register, you get the 1 month general mastermind part of it. Now, some of you may say, Pat, I want to be on it, but I want to be at the platinum level, $997, typically $1,500. Why $997? This is where you get the access of the recording for 8 weeks, and you're virtual, meaning we see your face. Like if you go back and you look at this image, everybody sees each other. For general, nobody sees you. You just see the recording. For platinum, we all see. So I get to call your name and interact with you, with your face, whatever part of the world you're in, and we're going back and forth. That doesn't happen at general level, but it does happen at the platinum level at $997. You get all of that, and you have a virtual seat, and you get the recording. And at the end, when it's over with and we dismiss general, all the platinum stick around, and we do a 2-hour private Q&A session, you and I and everybody else that's there, because there's going to be about 100 people that are live there, but they're buying a different super VIP ticket, and that sells out within no time. I'm talking specifically these 2 levels. And for the first 50 people that get the $997, you'll get 2 months of general mastermind. Everything else I said comes with it, plus 2 months of general mastermind. That means December, you'll be part of it. January, you'll be a part of it to kick off the year. So all of this stuff I said, and I promise you get the PDF. All you have to do to get the PDF link is text the word no matter what to 310-340-1132. Again, text the word no matter what to 310-340-1132, and we'll send the link back to you, the PDF. And last but not least, I just want to kind of say this to you guys before we wrap up. That's the QR code. You can go. I think let's put the link below as well in the chats for people that want to go to. They can find it as well. That QR code will take you there. But some of you guys may be watching this on your phones. And I think you have to go to bpw.valuetainment.com. I think it's bpw.valuetainment.com. If you can double check that, bpw.valuetainment.com. That's exactly it. To go register for either general or platinum. Be sure to be part of the first 100 or the 50. But I'll tell you this. I remember back in the days when I had come out of the Army and nothing was right. Nothing was going. I was about to go. I went through a bad breakup. Girl I was going to marry. Financially, things were not right. I was going back to my recruiter to go back into the Army because I was like, I've given up on this civilian life. I'm not going to do well. I'm going to go back and do 20 years in the Army. I'll never forget this. And I'm in Universal Studios, City Walk, with a friend. We went to In-N-Out. We bought a, double cheeseburger, and we split it in the middle with our hand. He got half, I got half. We got water because we couldn't afford it, put lemon in it and sweetener to make our own type of a lemonade, if you want to call it. And we drank. We didn't have any money. We only bought one sandwich. The countdown's going down. And And it's Ryan Seacrest, I believe his name is, in LA, right? 102.7, KISS FM. And you see 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. No excitement. There's nothing for me to be excited about. I had nothing to look forward to. Nothing. Not a girl, not a business that's growing, not a job that's doing well, nothing. And we're looking at each other. We finished this burger. And say, you want to go to Saddle Ranch? I'm like, I don't know, man. What do you want to do? I said, dude, I just don't know. I will never in my life do a countdown like this ever again. I have nothing to look forward to. I'm not going to do this. My dad had a heart attack. He was in a hospital. Things were not going well. And I was just sick of it. Just so sick of it. And I sat there and I said, this is it. Went back home, went to the office the next day, worked my ass off, never looked back. May of 2004 was the first time in my life I made $18,495. And that was the last time my dad reached in his pocket to pay for anything. I made a decision, I'm going to work my ass off. And the rest is history. And then I grew, good things happened. Then I started my business. And then even later on, planning, the next level of planning. And some of you guys may be watching saying, Pat, I'm doing $100 million. I also know what it is to do when you have a $100 million business and you're sitting there saying, now what? I got the house. I got the cars. I've traveled the world. I've met a lot of interesting people. Is this it? You're just going to cruise and just kick back? And your kids are never going to see the best version of you. They're going to see the lazy dad that's now rich, just sitting around. Is that all that's going to happen with you, PBD? That's what you're going to do? No. Then I wrote the plan at the different level. And a life came. And now for us, I'm sharing this with you. You're getting a glimpse that we've never shared with other people before. You're seeing what's happening with numbers and dollars. At BPW, it's going to be this, except 9 hours of content that he and I are going to go through with you. So if you are either the story I told you where you can't even afford to buy a cheeseburger from In-N-Out, if you're the guy that's mid-level executive, you kind of feel like you've been cruising lately, or you're the guy that's built a business that life is pretty good for you, you want to kind of find a way to get the fire back and see what that next version of you looks like. No matter what level you're at, if you're interested in recreating yourself and making 2025 the beginning of the greatest years of your life, go on that QR code, go to bpw.valuetainment.com, register for either the general or platinum. Let's spend an entire day together on December 13th and make that the beginning of the greatest years of your life, where you go into 2025 with a ton of enthusiasm and excitement. Having said that, is there anything else I need to say, Kelly? Or we're good? Tom, thank you so much. Gang, take care, everybody. We'll leave this link up here. For those of you guys that are registering, I'm already getting a update on people that are registering for it. If you want to be part of one of the webinars, I highly recommend you hurry up and make a decision and get registered now. God bless everybody. Take care. Bye-bye, bye-bye.